Welcome, everyone. It's my first JS day, so I'm really enthusiastic about that. I see a lot of energy. I really appreciate the previous talks. So I just want to say, congratulations to the previous speakers, also from the other rooms. So my name is Gilberto Cocchi, and I work in Google as staff partner engineering, which may not mean a lot to you, but in a nutshell, in Google, we have like these hybrid roles doing partly engineering, partly working with partners, and also product. And my main area of expertise is around what we call the web platform in Google, which is a combination of many aspects about how the web is shaped, what works in the web, and how we can make developers' life easier. Today, I'm gonna go do like a quick overview about a couple of areas of web platform. I'm not gonna be able to go too much in detail about all of these items, so I will make sure to link relevant resources. So if you want to go more in depth, you can go for it. So I'm gonna talk briefly about baseline and tooling, some updates about what you can do with AI on Chrome browser directly, and also some of the bits about advanced web performance patterns, and also some updates about UI capabilities. But before going to the first topic, I wanted to recognize, and I'm sure you all agree, that how complex the web development landscape is. As you know, web developers need to know a lot of tools, a lot of languages, a lot of processes, unit testing, AI, of course. And then you also need to be knowledgeable about accessibility, performance, UX, and many others. And there is an aspect which I wanted to talk today, which is related to get an understanding about when a feature is supported on browsers. Before, Massimo showed hey, there is this JavaScript method, it works on these browsers, and others not. And I think we all agree that is a difficult, aspect, to deal with from the JavaScript developer's point of view. How many of you use Can I Use? Okay, many, nice. And how many of you know what baseline logo is in Can I Use? Less, but some, not zero. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about is why Chrome and WebDX community group came out with Baseline. So Baseline is a new communication tool for browser vendors and developers in order to help you as a developers better understand the aspects of interoperability, which means like how features are supported on the web across browsers. As I said before, it started by Chrome, but it's now a complete open source community effort led by the WebDX community group. You can sign up for it if you want to contribute. And in a nutshell, defines web-supported features as grouped by a set of core browsers, which is Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. In a nutshell, Baseline is something that you can see as logos in MDN, in Can I Use, in other things. But what is really telling you as a developer is that, okay, this is a new feature. Can I use it? Or do I need to kind of implement a fallback or a polyfill strategy? And when is the right time to use it without worry too much? So in a nutshell, limited availability tells you that the feature is currently available on one of the core supported browsers, but not all of them. So you need to be conscious that it may not support on other browsers. It doesn't mean that you don't need to test it, but you need to be conscious about the limitations, whether you need a polyfill or callback. Newly available, it means that the feature is currently available on all the core browser sets. So Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. But it doesn't mean that it will reach all of your users. So a feature becomes widely available only when it's newly available for at least 30 months. Okay? So limited availability, only one or multiple browser supports, but not all of them. Newly available all the browsers, but who knows, how long it will take for users to update their browser, non-zero time. And where widely available means it should be safe to use. So I updated the slide with his example. So if you go on MDN looking for structured clone, you see this. So yes, Baseline widely available is telling that it has been newly available for at least 30 months. So in theory, it's safe to use. Okay, a part of checking on MDN and can I use, what can you do as a developer? So what do you get out of this? So there are a couple of tools which may be useful for your tool integrations, for your build integration, so on. And they're all collected into the Web Platform DX GitHub repo. So for example, there is like the web features repository, which allows you to query for a feature availability on a given command. And then, for example, you can also use browser.List config baseline integration to target specific baseline year or version, depending on what kind of features you want to support, or whether you want to target only things that are only widely available, newly available, or also open to experimental features. There are also some integrations for what are called RAM or real user monitoring providers, which are tools to measure like uptime, core vitals, web performance on. RAM archive from Akamai Impulse, for example, implemented baseline into their data. So if you go into the public data set, you can query data and see like how is this feature actually supported across the dataset that Akamai can measures? And some RAM providers like RAM Vision, which is a Netherlands RAM provider, also implemented baseline. So users using these services can understand their audience based by baseline versions overall. And baseline is kind of an aspect of what we call developer tooling in Chrome. But there are many, many more updates to share. Actually, some have already been covered by Fabio and Giorgio, so I may go quick on them and go slow on others so I can go more in deep dive. For example, I think Giorgio mentioned before that we announced in Chrome DevTools Ask AI feature, which is also called DevTools AI Assistance. And we also included them, and Fabio before showed like we have now live cracks metrics in Chrome DevTools performance panel, and cracks is the real world performance data from Chrome directly given to you via different aspects. We will talk better later. But we also introduced many, many new insights. So if you have specific issues with JavaScript or with bad usage of HTML patterns, or maybe third parties, you have new insights in order to help you deal with it and try to improve user experience for your users. In order to enable Ask AI, you just need to right-click into a HTML element, into a network element in the network panel, or into a performance JavaScript task into the performance panel. And once you enable it, because there is like a setting either to enable Ask AI Assistance or Console Insights, you have like this experience. Let's see if the video loads. Yes. Okay, so you can deal with AI in the context of the element that you focused, and you can follow some predefined prompts or write your own prompt, and then go forward and ask more questions, do some probing, and in case it kind of actually give you a suggestion, apply the suggestion straightforward. This is just the beginning of it. We're still, we're planning to do many more features integration in Ask AI DevTools AI Assistance. So if you can, please give it a try and send feedback. There is a send feedback form directly from DevTools. We will really, really appreciate if you send us any feedback you might have. There is also, if you're curious about all the things that are happening in DevTools, which are, I believe, really useful for JavaScript developers, you can find a link where you can find like what's new on DevTools by Chrome version. Every month we have like a Chrome release, and on this page you see like what changed, what's new, what we released, in terms of new performance insights, troubleshooting functionalities, and so on. Now, I'm going to do like a quick update about what Chrome delivered in terms of updates for Chrome User Experience Report. For the ones that don't know what Chrome User Experience Report is, it's the data set that provides data about your site core web vitals stats. Do you know Search Console, PSI, Lighthouse? So Lighthouse is only lab synthetic testing tool, right? Okay. The real data that you see on php.web.dev comes from Chrome, real traffic, not Googlebot. and is collected and it is outputted to you via different models. You can access via BigQuery, you can access via free API and or an history API. And what we did in CRUX is that we added new metric dimensions. For example, before Fabio showed that using client-side rendering may impact largest contentful paint or LCP. If your LCP is actually influenced by an image, it might be difficult to understand like why the image was loading late and so on. So we added like a new dimension called LCP image subparts. So you can get an understanding about what part of the image loading is actually loading slowly. And with round trip times, we added like an information about how fast your user's connection is. And with navigation types, we provide developers a way to understand the traffic composition. Like, is your site traffic mainly done by page loads, by back forward cache? We'll see more later. Fabio already showed this. Thank you, Fabio. But in a nutshell, I really suggest to try out, if you want to get an understanding about your site performance, I really suggest to try this dashboard, cruxvis.google.com. It gives you last 6 months of data on the weekly snapshot. So if you did something, you need to wait 1 week. And for the whole change, because it's a 28-day rolling average windows, you need to wait 4 weeks anyway. So remember, it's not real time. But you can go there and look at all the data. And if you have feedback, please share. We're working to deprecating the Looker Studio dashboard in favor to this one. Now, changing topic. So we've discussed about baseline. We discussed about tooling. And now I want to discuss about what you can do with AI directly in the browser. In Chrome, we have an effort in order to give you developers access to Gemini Nano directly from the JavaScript as an API. It's called like built-in AI APIs in Chrome with Gemini Nano. This is about getting access to a local model, which is Gemini Nano, is the smallest version of a Gemini models. And because it's local, it means that it's private by default, it has good performance, it can work offline, but remember that it's a small model. So it's actually designed in order to do like specific tasks where the output will be of sufficient quality. In a nutshell, these APIs are designed in a way that, when a developer calls these methods, which I will show in a bit, the model is downloaded by the user. And once it's downloaded, you as a website developer and other websites will be able to make use of it. In Chrome, we currently have 4 APIs in origin trial. If you're not comfortable about what origin trial is a way to have a sneak peek about a new API in Chrome. You just need to sign up for origin trial, add a meta token to your website, and then you have access to a new API, even if it's not released to all of your users. To all of the Chrome versioning. We currently released 4 APIs for testing. One is about summarizing text on the web. One is about doing translations. One is about language detection. And there is a specific generic prompt API JavaScript method, but that is limitedly available only to Chrome extensions. If you're curious to try it out, you can go into this summarizer API playground. You just need to enable a couple of flags, which are described into the article here. Actually, I can also do maybe a small demo. Give me a sec. So in order to complicate live things, I can do a small demo. Okay, you see my screen? Okay. Now I will put like, my speaker notes. I say like, maybe, oops, that's the wrong one. wrong one, sorry. This one, okay. Now you should see it, okay. So this is the demo part. This is the demo page. I add like a part of my speaker notes. And if you go into this page, you can add any any text that you have, you want to play the API with it, you can select different kind of summary types, whether you want key points or whatever. So let me show you like without loading. So now what I'm doing now on the web is actually using Gemini Nano via JavaScript API. I already downloaded the model. So the model is actually doing the summarization task by key points. If I change to another output like TLDR, it will also do it. You see? So in this case, I did like, maybe I want a teaser. Okay. Maybe I should better use this time for the next presentation. It actually is doing a better job than mine. Okay, back to the presentation, which will take forever to go back to. Where is my screen? Of course, it didn't work. Okay, give me a sec, sorry for that. Yes. Okay. Okay, sorry for that. I did, it's not presenting into, I have like a coding issue with the app now. Oh, oops. Okay. Okay, do you see it? Yes. No live demos anymore in this setup. It's too difficult. It's too difficult with the screen like that. Sorry for that. Okay, so this is the update about built-in AI APIs, which, as I said, we're just at the beginning of it, planning to have some updates during Google I/O if you're curious. Just want to say, that currently these APIs work on Chrome desktop only, and on specific NVRAM availabilities, you need to have at least 4 GB of NVRAM. Now, switching topics again, I would like to talk to you about some of advanced web performance patterns. Before, Fabio talked about Core Vitals, so I'm not going to mention, what the metrics are, but I think that Fabio also mentioned briefly what is IMP of interaction to next paint. So I'm going to do like a quick crash course about, how you can find yourself able to finally tackle IMP if you had issues optimizing it. So first, in order to start optimizing IMP, you need to understand what is your timing, what is your millisecond, what is your IMP value for your page. So I suggest to check on cracks, as I showed before, or PageSpeed.web.dev, which is the screenshot here, or on Search Console, which is also showing the data from cracks. Second, if you find what pages have a high IMP, you should go into DevTools, apply CPU 4x slowdown if you're trying to emulate like a mobile IMP, because remember that your CPU of your powerful laptop is way more powerful than your user's average mobile device. So try to reproduce the same environment variable and try to click record and press on some interactions. So, and once you finish the recording, you should see a trace similar like this. So with some pointer events, as you see here, which is showing like, hey, the JavaScript was busy and the browser wasn't able to show to the user the result of a frame interaction. That is what IMP is suggesting you to do. But the issue is that what if you don't know what is the code, what is the method, what is the JavaScript method, or what is third parties, what is first parties, so on. So the only way to really go to the root cause of your IMP issues is to use RAM, or real user monitoring. So there are kind of commercial solutions for real user monitoring, or you can also use the open source Web Vitals JS library and send the beacon back to your analytics provider or any kind of latency system that you have in your company. And if you call like the on IMP method, you will be able to get an understanding about what was the event about, how long it took, how long it was the JavaScript main thread busy, and where was the user clicking on. Was it on a button? Was it on the menu? Was it an image? And so on. So is this information enough? Not always, because I'm sure that maybe on your website you use also third-party scripts, right? How many use third-party scripts on your website? Okay, almost everyone. So, and that is kind of making attribution of IMP events really, really complicated. That's why Chrome introduced a new metric called long animation frames. And don't worry, you don't need to study or measure it up, appropriately, by yourself. You can just use Web Vitals JS attribution build, and it will kind of give you the information about the IMP event timing entry with the long animation frames script array. So if it was like a script by URL, either first party, yours, or third parties that contribute to IMP, you will find it there. So if you find the information there, I will suggest, to capture, the way that you think you will be able to aggregate and send it the beacon, do a nice dashboard with Grafana, whatever, and then maybe complain with the third parties. So you can find really a good article about how to use long animation frames, but I really suggest just use Web Vitals JS. So then how do you optimize IMP? So the goal is to make the main thread less busy. It's not about reducing JavaScript or eliminating JavaScript. It's about helping the browser, helping you, showing the user what you wanted to show them. Okay, because if it's happening as a long task as here, the browser will not be able to show any input to the user. So the solution is to reduce IMP is to split the tasks. Continue to run your JavaScript, but be more gently on the main thread and try to let the browser do and commit some paint operation if it has to. This is an example of a generic long task, which has to do many things, right? I'm sure that you have like code like that. Validate form, show spinner, save to database, update UI, and whatever. This is great, but if a user is waiting for an update, like the button to change background, because maybe this wasn't you see it's a click event handler, the browser will not be able to show anything until all of this finished. So the solution is to use different methods to split the task, either use set timeout or RAF, request animation frames, or better elegant methods such as scheduler.yield, which we released in Chrome last year, which ensures that while you split task, you don't go back to the end of the queue, because event loop is not messing around. If you do like, set timeouts in a promise like that, it's great, but you kind of lose priority. In order may not be preserved. So you can find like great articles on web.dev which explains about this. But in a nutshell, that is the last result that you're aiming to. You see, this is the same task. We didn't delete any kilobyte of JavaScript. We just made like, more gentle on the main thread. So, and the user, if it's clicking, they see like, the button coloring blue or whatever. There are plenty of articles on web.dev. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through all of them, but I suggest, take a look on web.dev. There are good examples about all the different yielding strategies, which will deserve a 1 hour talk alone. The second aspect I wanted to mention about web performance is about how to understand your site traffic. Before I mentioned, about navigation types, which is coming from Crux. If you go on Crux, you find data about this expressed in percentages. So if you see on your website a high number in back forward and a really low number, maybe 0 on back forward cache, that is an opportunity. It means that you have back forward traffic on your site and no cache. It means that the browser is not able to help you restore your application state as much as it could. So I think it's all in your interest to make BF cache working across browsers. In order to make it work, you need to check some of these blocking methods, because if you use APIs or headers in some of these ways, the browser will not be able to cache the page in order to make it back forward cache eligible. For example, using cache control not store is really, really common. On sensitive pages like checkout and logins, it's acceptable, but there are many commerce websites that use it, for example, on catalog pages for really no good reasons. If you use WebSocket, for example, or IndexedDB connections, make sure you don't just open the connection on page load, because it will prevent the page to be PF cache eligible. The right way to do it is to open the connection at page show and close the connection on page hide. It will work the same. It will just be fast. And Halo Event Handler. I hope that nobody is using Halo Event Handler. We told with Chrome and Safari and others said to stop using it since at least 3-4 years. And by the way, we're also planning to deprecate in 1 year. So if you didn't remove it, please remove it. Otherwise, wait 1 year, it will not work anymore. So please move to page hide. Second aspect about performance. Sorry if I'm going really fast. So enabling BF cache is really important, because you just don't need to run the JavaScript again. You just resume the state of your app as it is. But you can do even more. Think if you have specific parts of your pages where your users may go as a MPA or cross-document navigations, using speculation rules may be something of your interest. There is a great article that tells you about how to use speculation rules, which is a Chrome-only feature, really simple, but helps your app to go really, really fast. It's just a simple script element. You just define what is the action, either to prefetch or pre-render. You define what are the eligible links, okay? And you can define links by href match, by CSS selector match. It's really, really easy. And you define what is the trigger logic, when the action should happen. And the eagerness method controls that. So this code is what it's doing is that hey, browser, if I have links, but please not the login link, pre-render. So load it into a hidden tab. And if a user clicks on it, the load will be super fast. And eagerness moderate means do it only when the user is hovering for at least 200 milliseconds in order not to do it for nothing. There is a great case from Ray-Ban, which by the way is from Italian developers from Luxottica, where you can find out about the business impact of using pre-rendering. If you go on Ray-Ban on desktop and on mobile, you see specific different implementations that you make use of pre-render and back-forward cache in order to make navigations almost instantaneous. Now, switching gears again, last time promised. There is also an aspect about web platform is about better web APIs. There is a whole team in Chrome, in Safari, and in Mozilla, which works to provide you developers better APIs, better standards by default, like HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Before, Massimo mentioned hey, for animations, why do you use JavaScript? It's a really good point. You could do really nice things with JavaScript. I'm not saying we should not use JavaScript, of course, but sometimes if you can rely on a native solution, it may be better. One of the examples is scroll-driven animations, which was something that was possibly only with JavaScript in the past. Now it's fully available on some browsers. You see, limited availability. That's why I explained baseline of some browsers. So you can implement specific animation based on scroll-driven position in the viewport only by using CSS. No JavaScript, no issue with intersection observer, no scroll jank, whatever. I suggest you to give it a try. Popovers were also something which was sometimes difficult. How many of you created a component for that? Now it's basically newly available. Popovers can be created really simply with a simple HTML method. They are accessible. They have a good IMP by default. And guess who adopted it? GitHub. If you go on GitHub, you can find multiple popovers being implemented in some of the UI components. And there are more and more things, like, for example, customizable select. I'm going to quick because I think we're running out of time. You can find some of the recent methods that elements that we launched in Chrome is about customizable select. You can see it in Chrome 135, which released last week. It's something that I'm sure maybe some of you find yourself that you want to create a custom select. You have to kind of mimic it with some divs, whatever. now is no longer necessary in Chrome. We hope it will be no longer necessary on other browsers as well. There is currently positives from Mozilla, and there is also ongoing development work from Safari. So we're hopeful that this will become like something widely available in the future. Another thing, sorry, the list is long. Another thing which I think is amazing for the web is view transitions. So I'm sure that you, in your SPA side, you had like, a need or an ask from your PM or marketing about, hey, I want like a really cool transition from going to one view to another one. But the tricky point is that sometimes doing this is kind of heavy on the GPU, on the compositor, etc. So both Chrome and Safari implemented view transition directly in the browser, making, for developers way easier to implement these kind of transitions by using some lines of JavaScript and some specific CSS animations. But what is also new is that cross-document view transitions are now available. So you can make view transitions across MPA page loads. So when you go from one page to another one, no flash style anymore. And this is kind of a game changer, currently supported only on Chrome, but we are confident that other browsers will follow along. Last item, almost last item, promise, is carousels. I'm sure that it's the component which is really common if you're developers live. There are many JavaScript components, JavaScript libraries using carousels, making them infinite, using lazy loading, 3D, whatever. So Chrome and other browsers put some serious effort in order to improve the native primitives for carousel widgets. Some of them are available now, some will be available through the year, so stay tuned for updates. But in a nutshell, there is like a team in browser vendors which are working to make implementing carousels just better. Requires maybe less components. Maybe you will still use maybe a component from your preferred framework, but in theory there should be like less lines of JavaScript to handle that in the future. Last topic, 1 minute, I promised. It's permissions. So I'm sure you find yourself on a site and you find and you had like a notification randomly being requested for geolocation, notification, or others. This is something that we believe is not great for the web. And what I wanted to tell you is that we have an API in origin trial available for that. So if you have a website or an app where you request camera, microphone, or geolocation permission, there is a new API which gives you better operating system integration, easier way to recovery permission, and also better UX integration with more context in order to avoid less spammy behavior, more acceptance rates of your permission notification flows to your users. Thank you.